Welcome back to the Perfected Health Podcast. This is episode 11. I am back with Victor Cozzetto, and today we are going to talk about Candida, which I've done several videos on, but we've never gone in depth, especially with what I've learned over the past several years. Victor, what's going on today?
Hey, how's it going, Frank? Glad to be back. Looking forward to talking about this Candida stuff. Yeah, in fact, we've been planning to do this for quite a while, and we just haven't been able to hook up. It's been a busy time.
Yeah, we want to do ideally like podcasts every 2-3 weeks on this stuff just to kind of bang out all these health topics. And this is a huge one. I think I get comments every single day on one of my videos about Candida or SIBO now. And especially with the high radiation environments people are in, that's really inhibiting organ function. It really makes it easy for bacteria, especially fungus, to proliferate in the gut and really just wreak havoc.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm not even sure, like all your listeners, like you say, you get a lot of comments, but a lot of people really aren't aware that Candida is probably if we want to say the root cause, but the cause of a lot of their symptoms, and they just don't realize it because their doctors don't know. They don't know what's going on. But so many people suffer from Candida overgrowth. Specifically, I should point out Candida albicans, because there's many different kinds of Candida. And they're not really all bad guys. Even the bad guy, the Candida albicans, is still useful if it's kept in check. So Candida overgrowth, I think, is really the right context for people to keep in mind, because a lot of people just want to kill.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's right. Because when people they say,
yeah.
"Oh, I have Candida," and then you're like, "Oh wait, no, hold on a second. Everyone has Candida.
Yeah,
everyone
right.
everyone has Salmonella. Everyone has E. coli. Everyone has Staph.
Right.
Everyone has all these different types of bacteria and fungus in their stomach. And if they're in the correct ratio and you're on a healthy diet and a healthy environment,
Right.
Everything's happy together. But some tend to proliferate in the context of poor diets or poor living circumstances."
Right. Exactly. So I guess and so many people do suffer because in the modern or standard American diet, there's so many refined sugars and refined carbs. And that tends to be maybe one of the most popular or most common factors for why Candida gets out of control. Just too many refined sugars, too many refined carbs. And so sometimes it's really easy for people to get it back in balance just by changes in diet. And if their biome hasn't been wrecked, if they're not in total dysbiosis, the body can readjust and it'll be okay. So a lot of times I don't know if I could say for most people, but for many people, just good dietary guidance can get rid of Candida, right? Or can get it back in check, we should say, right? To restore balance.
Yeah, thankfully, most people aren't in like a super severe state of gut damage where it's going to take them, 6-7 months to years to fix their health. And if you do go to a regular doctor or physician, you might actually end up in that scenario because you'll go to doctor after doctor after doctor over 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months a year. And they look at you like you're crazy because Candida isn't really viewed as an illness in the medical literature. You go to gastroenterologists, they're just going to give you proton pump inhibitors, which will lower your gastrointestinal capability, which will just make things worse. So if you keep going to those doctors over that period of a year and you keep consuming toxins or whatever, that's just fueling the Candida and making it worse, you can end up in a really sick state where then you have to dig yourself out of the hole because you couldn't come across the right information to fix your problem.
Right. And don't forget that antibiotics make things worse too. And so many people are always getting pumped with the antibiotics.
The doctors that are a little bit better will prescribe antibiotics, obviously not the best ones. And the antibiotics for some people, most people, it's a temporary fix. It'll bomb out the Candida, but then 2, 3, 4 months later, it's even worse than before. The excellent doctors, they will prescribe specific antibiotics and things for SIBO that will bomb it out, and then they'll prescribe probiotics that might work. But at the end of the day, you don't want to bomb everything out completely over that long of a period of time because that's gonna damage you more than anything.
Yeah, I'm really against using the antibiotics for any of that stuff because for me, like you said, it's like a short term. It comes back with a vengeance, right? So if someone's got a really serious case of Candida, and it's not just dysbiosis, it's most likely rooted in heavy metal toxicity. And that makes it, and so if our body is loaded with heavy metals, not only are we more sensitive to EMFs, right? So we get this negative feedback loop going on. And because the Candida literally grabs the heavy metal ions and builds those into its biofilm. And so even if we do biofilm busting and stuff like that and temporarily get rid of the Candida, but your body is still toxic, the Candida is just going to grow back and it's going to build those very strong biofilms.
Yeah, from the physiological perspective, people need to understand that Candida is a good thing. It's trying to get rid of the
Yes.
toxins in your body. So if you take
Right.
antibiotics and you kill the Candida, it's just going to die there, leave more toxins because it's now dead fungal tissue, as well as the toxins that it picked up. And I actually did a video in depth on all of the different antibiotics and pharmaceuticals that doctors do prescribe for SIBO and Candida, if you guys want to check that out. But this is going to be focused more on like what Candida is, why it happens, how do you fix it, and then later on we'll go into more severe circumstances and long-term solutions. But yeah, let's emphasize more on Candida being like a healing fungus. Like for me, when my liver was really overloaded with iron, the reason I got Candida was because I started drinking milk, and the lactose in the milk, the sugars were feeding Candida, and the Candida was growing and trying to suck all of the iron out of my liver. And then the Candida is expelled in the bowel movement. It's not like the Candida is just staying there permanently in your digestive tract and doesn't want to leave. It's being expelled with regular bowel movement. So it's trying to detox your body in an extreme circumstance.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a really good thing to emphasize, that it's not evil, right? There's actually a good purpose. There's a positive reason why it's happening. It's actually, like we could say, it's trying to help you by getting rid of heavy metal toxins, by even consuming the excess refined sugars and carbs, right? So and then it just gets out of control. Like we can relate it to like other bodily functions, like a fever, right? If we get really sick, the body, the fever is a defense mechanism. The fever goes up to kill off whatever the issue is. And yeah, sometimes if that gets out of control, it's an issue. But basically, it's one of our defense mechanisms. So it's not it's not inherently evil. So we just got to get it back in check. And we got to figure out what the Candida is trying to tell us, right? Like, so maybe it's a dietary adjustment we need to make. Maybe it's the heavy metals we need to get out of the body. Could be stress, right? And of course, all these crazy processed foods that are, right? There's a lot of hidden toxins, a lot of hidden sugars people don't realize.
I think one of the bigger myths to also talk about, and one of the first things people mention in the context of Candida, is the sugar and carbs feed Candida. And technically speaking, that's a good thing because the Candida is going to grow more and pull more toxins out, but that's also not tolerable by your body. If you're just consuming sugars and carbs and your stomach is just one giant fungus, you're going to feel horrible. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to feel like you're dying. So you want to find a middle ground of consuming, a balance of nutritious foods like animal proteins and fats to give your body what it needs to detox. And then the carbs, the fiber, the sugars, that type of stuff is going to help the Candida grow and soak up the toxins. But then you also need probiotics to keep the Candida in check. So it's a matter of finding a fine line and a balance. And I think all of the conventional wisdom out there on Candida is really incorrect. But yeah, let's go into, I guess, the first step of, how do we remove these heavy metals and what type of diet are we supposed to follow?
Right. So if we start with the most extreme example with the heavy metals, then I always, like with my clients, for example, that have tried to use various like biofilm busters, maybe antibiotics, a lot of different plant medicine, the idea of attacking, but they can't get rid of the Candida. And so I'll use the PBX or PB zeolites, bentonite clay, even fulvic acid. And I'll use specific brands, and in combination with kefir MSM, magnesium, which we talked about. And the reason why I have the magnesium and MSM up here is because they enable us to detox much better, right? So like magnesium is one of the limiting factors in our detox ability. We'll burn up a lot of magnesium when we're detoxing. So, and the same thing, MSM, which provides sulfur and helps with methylation, it's going to improve our detox abilities, especially at a cellular level. So yeah, the combination actually, if you can do all of those things, for really, really talking about someone that's toxic, right? If that's the root cause of their Candida overgrowth, using especially the PBX zeolite with kefir, it's going to break. It's not only going to break down the biofilms, but the Candida won't have a reason to build the biofilms anymore because the heavy metals will be gone. It's not immediate. It's not an instant. So this is something that takes more time, right? Because you're really pulling out the root cause, trying to get those heavy metals out. And look, they could have been building up for decades in people, so, and sometimes it takes a long time. It's hard to predict, but you can see it. If you're getting tested, you'll see your heavy metal toxicity is going down.
So you have the zeolite, the clays to help kind of bind to and pull the toxins out of the body so they're not being reabsorbed too much in the digestive tract.
Right.
And then you have the MSM and magnesium, which are two cell components that people are usually heavily deficient in, that help speed up and fuel the detox processes. So where does regular like kaolin clay or just regular soil clay fit in there, as well as charcoal?
Yeah, you could use those too. So for example, it's interesting when we talk about clay, because I will often use a combination of 3 different clays, because every clay, like from, and it's like endless all over the world, it's a little different. And different clays will have different affinities, meaning they'll be more strongly attracted to one toxin or another. So they work together. And it's the same thing with the zeolites and the clays combined. And you can even throw a fulvic acid in there. They'll all have slightly different affinities. So it's just giving your body even more support. When we talk about if we go away from the bentonite to illites or the kaolinites and such, they're not as strong at pulling stuff out. So it's more delicate. So some people, maybe they can't handle, they get a stronger detox reaction. They just have to go more slowly. And for example, also with a bentonite, we have calcium bentonite clays and sodium bentonite clays. And the sodium bentonite clays are swelling clay. Some people can handle it really well. It's good, but maybe they need something more delicate, so they can use a calcium bentonite clay, which still is got a very strong pull, but it's not a swelling clay. So it's a little bit easier in the digestive tract.
Just to interject, I mean, this is kind of confusing to some people. I think I spoke about clay a couple of years ago in one of my water videos. There's a couple main groups like kaolinite clay. So when I talk about kaolin clay, that's predominantly like African clays.
It's a very delicate, mild, soft.
Yeah. They actually use it a lot of times in like facial masks and stuff. There's montmorillonite, smectite, and bentonite is a derivative.
That's a smectite. That's all the same.
That's what the volcanic stuff is classified in, and those are very popular in Europe. And then there's illite clay, and I don't remember where the illite clay is from, but they're all over the place. And then for each of those 3 main categories of clay, you have subcategories and things that fit in here and there depending on the location and region.
Right. Yeah, it's really, really complex, and it's very confusing, because then there's you'll hear different marketing terms like a green desert clay or a red desert clay, but they're bentonite clays, right? And so, and it's because they're still the same process, right? They're basically from a volcanic source, but different places around the world, and exactly how they were formed was a little bit different, but their structures are very similar. And then it's the big difference for us is how gentle it is, or how strong it is, or how it matches to our body.
Yeah, whenever clay is brought up, I think of geophagia, which is like the term for when these people would make like clay patties and eat them for minerals, and for when they were sick in certain like cultures and tribes and groups of people.
Yeah, right. Historically, I mean, clay has an amazing history. I mean, there's so much information. We could just like talk endlessly for hours. I mean, there's books out there on it, and there's so many different ones. Like people can debate, which clay is better than another, and you can't have a
Yeah,
winner.
and to simplify it even further, you're basically putting dirt in your water, and that
Yeah.
might sound kind of weird to people, but when you drink it, it actually tastes like, it's almost like you crave it if you have like the right type of clay, or if it's like has certain mineral content, or you're deficient in certain things.
Yeah, yeah, right. And they'll all be unique. You'll even see animals that will have their favorite places to go for clay.
Mhm.
Animals that have access to different places, like elephants, birds, they will seek out clay, and they'll also have their favorite sources, because unlike us, right? They're much more in tune with what the body
They have
needs,
better
right?
senses, their sense of smell and
Yes,
taste. They can,
yes,
especially cows in the field, when farmers give them mineral supplements, the cows can actually smell which mineral they crave and need, and they'll go towards it.
right,
Part of
right.
our poor development and recent dietary history has like given us a worse sense of smell and put us out of touch with what our body craves. I mean, people still have cravings like for chocolate and pickles and ice cream and stuff, but it's not nearly as in tune as what animals are capable of sniffing out.
Right, right. And they don't tend to have dysbiosis, right? So they're right. So their senses aren't really being distorted like ours are. So yeah, it's really crazy. Like I try to work with the clients to try to get them back in touch with their intuition and their senses. But that's difficult, right? Because like you're saying, we're desensitized. And then we're also driven by fear. We live in a world of psychological
Mhm.
warfare,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Of
horrible.
being seduced by things. So it is really complicated. So even for me, when I can recommend a type of clay for a client, but I tell them, you try to listen to your body. You might want to switch over and use something different. Don't just automatically follow what I recommend, right? We all,
So
yeah.
yeah, so we kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So you have Candida. We know what clays and
Hmm.
supplements you can take that are high priority. I mean, obviously, you can basically take every vitamin and mineral supplement in the book, from B vitamins to iodine and it'll probably help you in some capacity if you're deficient, which most people are.
Hmm.
But in most cases, just by cleaning up the diet and consuming a good probiotic, you don't have to worry about too much of this stuff.
Right. That's true. I mean, so like the GAPS diet is a good example of that, but it takes like 2 years, for people that's like prescribed to people with autism
Yeah.
to eventually pull the aluminum out of the brain. And it's just really about cleaning up the diet, taking out stuff and then slowly reintroducing as you figure out where clean sources of food, et cetera. So, because if we have clean food, and clean air and clean water, we're like indestructible. We'll overcome
Mhm.
anything, we'll recover. And so when we talk about, the things we're talking about now, like the clay, the zeolites, et cetera, it's because we've fallen below a certain threshold and we just don't have access to the food, or,
Mhm.
not everyone can, but yeah, if they can do it. And
Yeah.
now these tools that are available do make it easier for us, though. They do make it quicker,
Mhm.
if we can afford them, right? So if
Yeah.
people have a budget for it.
Yeah. For the dietary context, the quick switch is go organic everything and see how much
Yes.
better you feel. But for people that have like a strong willpower and they're able to stick to only a few foods, I usually suggest people, like, the safest protein source is just really lean grass-fed beef. You don't have to worry about what they're feeding the chickens or the pork or whatever, the eggs. You don't have to worry about what they're giving the dairy cattle. Just really lean grass-fed beef is an excellent safe protein source. You don't have the extra fat stressing your digestion and liver. And then you want some clean carbohydrate sources, which with a decent amount of fiber, like just organic white rice or even organic pasta for some people. For fiber, you can have like
Right.
organic beans, cannellini beans, organic artichokes, organic cauliflower, and then maybe some, if you want something sweet, like some fruit here or there. And then for fats, coconut is very strong antimicrobial. So
Right.
so just that small base of foods like lean grass-fed beef, organic white rice, organic cannellini
Mhm.
beans, organic apples, and coconut. So if you want to only stick to 5 or 6 foods and
Mhm.
be super strict with your diet for a week or two and then start introducing stuff, I think that's a great balance of fats, carbs, and
Mm.
protein. But speaking of coconut, I mean, we definitely have to kind of debunk these antimicrobial protocols, which are probably doing more harm than good. They probably flush out the Candida in the first day or two, and then they're not reintroducing probiotics. It has to be so much added stress on the
Right.
liver just processing the antimicrobials, which are essentially toxins.
Right, right. It's putting a heavy burden. So I don't use those things. I love plant medicine, right? And I respect it, but I don't really use it with my clients because I don't like, because you get stuck in a cycle. You're killing it, it comes back. You're killing it, it comes back. So I stay away from, like, caprylic acid is often used in combination with like oregano
Yeah, I
oil
mean,
and,
I
and
followed those protocols for months when I had Candida to try to fix it. Undesolinic acid, berberine,
right,
oregano
right,
oil, thyme oil, clove, wormwood.
right, right,
If you can name it as an antimicrobial, I've probably tried it. Grapefruit seed, black seed
right,
oil. There's two, three different,
right, right,
and then they have the broad spectrum supplements. You can buy a Candida cleanse. You don't have to buy each of these individually. You could buy MCT
right,
oil with the cupriac, all the different types of acid in
right,
it.
right,
And
right,
look, if you have a severe Candida overgrowth, you might have to do 1 or 2 days of a protocol just to clear it out, and then you can incorporate the probiotic. But the only thing that ever fixed it for me was just the probiotic itself, water kefir, a high quality probiotic.
right. Yeah, yeah. So it's the same thing for me. So like I saw clients that same thing. They did like everything you did. And then I was like, look, kefir and the PBX, you're gonna get rid of the candida. And and these are people that had tons of experience. And then sure enough, finally, boof. And the key is that, right, when you're using the detox components, you now it's gone for good. I mean, of course, you go back to a bad lifestyle, it's gonna come back. But I mean, you really get rid of the root source when you start taking out those heavy metals. And when you go to something like kefir, I mean, it's just such a powerful probiotic. And again, and that's something you're incorporating into your lifestyle. So it's not like, okay, I got to buy this drug or supplement to temporarily blow this up. And then your lifestyle doesn't change and it's just going to come back. So yeah, I mean, that's having kefir, I think, as the basis for the solution, regardless of what the root cause is. If it is just the poor processed foods, kefir is going to be displacing some of those bad
Have you seen
foods.
that? There's like a TikTok sound. It's like, if you're not doing this, where like if
Oh
you're
no, I
not,
haven't seen that
no,
one,
like if you're
but
not, I was gonna say if you're not drinking kefir,
but
being silly. So you take an antimicrobial, it bombs out the Candida, and then the antimicrobial passes through, and then the Candida can grow back. But that antimicrobial is also very stressful and damaging to your liver and organs. If you
right,
drink the kefir, the lactobacillus and the bacteria in the kefir actually eat the Candida, then they stay there. And the most important thing is the kefir is not stressful on your liver. It's actually helpful for your
right.
body. And you need something that's sustainable that you can do consistently.
Right.
Like when I was taking, I probably did more damage to my liver taking oregano oil than I
Mm.
did just letting
Your
the Candida
kidneys too.
overgrow.
Yeah,
Very
you're hurting
different.
your
Yeah, yeah.
kidneys. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, like you could see, I got so many stories from people that, again, they've gone through the same experiences that you did, and then you get going with kefir, and sometimes kefir alone is enough, because of course you always want to be fine tuning other things in your diet. Broth is actually very good. Again, if it's really quality, you're making your own good food at home. It's so good because it is, again, it's providing you with magnesium and so many other nutrients.
Minerals and B vitamins. Yeah,
Yeah,
very important.
exactly, exactly. So the double fermented kefir is amazing because of the B vitamins too, which are important for detox.
And
So
if you ferment it too much like me, you get to get drunk too.
it's I get maybe a positive side effect for some people. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
drink,
you know
but
what? I'm glad I brought that up because the reason a lot of people get Candida is actually alcohol.
yeah, right.
I've heard
It becomes sugar.
a
Yeah,
lot of young women who go out drinking all night and then have pizza and eat shit, and then they come home and then like a couple months, a year or two of doing that, they have Candida.
right.
Lot of alcohol related Candida issues too.
Right.
Inhibits
Yeah,
the liver function. You can't digest the food. The fungus overgrows.
right. Right. Yeah, it's really bad stuff. There's one thing, there is one other thing we didn't touch upon. I was almost going to touch upon it before, because when you were talking about the fats, I actually like a high fat diet for a client. It depends because everybody's so different. I mean, we know, it should be somewhere between 30 and 80%, of your calories can be fat, according to what we know historically. But there's a key thing here. So if a person is having a hard time with fats, so by getting them into a high fat diet, if they can't digest it, maybe they can use ox bile to help give them a head start. And there's a very interesting thing because ox bile or just bile flow in general can help. Bile is really good for helping to break down also the biofilms. And it's good for just lubricating your system, right? So like a lot of people, their digestive system isn't working right because they've been on their too low fat diet. They've been on a low fat diet for too long, right? So that's something for us to be aware of. And then, of course, there is also, like you were saying earlier, some people can't handle the fat. They need to give the digestive system a rest, the liver a rest, et cetera. But it's something else to look at. So again, just speaking to the individuality of people and how some people may be consuming more healthy fats, of course, not canola oil and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you would be eating the healthy meats, right? You would just be enjoying the healthy meats.
Yeah, let's give a percentage. So I would say really, really stressful liver damage, low fat, maybe anywhere from 15 to 30% of the diet should be fat. I think like the fat from the fresh beef as well as like coconut or MCT are probably the easiest on the liver. And then in other scenarios, as you said, you can increase the amount of fat as long as it's not coming from vegetable seed oils.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not afraid of ox bile, because there are so many benefits to that. Because there's other things too. It helps with vitamin D. There's a lot of interesting things about ox bile. I don't normally recommend it, so I'm not.
Yeah, well, you have
I'm not
enzymes on
encouraging
the
people.
you have enzymes on your board there in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
kind of lump ox bile in with enzymes in the sense that it's a digestive protein that
Yeah.
sometimes when our liver is inhibited, our
Mhm.
bodies aren't working properly, just taking stuff temporarily. And that's really the goal
Right.
with anything. When
Right.
you're trying to fix a health issue, there might be some things you have to do temporarily, like take ox bile, take
Right.
an enzyme blend. Like I have the macronutrient enzyme blend on organ supplements. I think I sent you one too to try out. But you
Yes.
don't,
Yes.
again, you don't want to
Yeah.
take that stuff for,
Right.
for 2, 3, 4 months. You want it just a few weeks. Hopefully
Just to
that should be
help you.
enough. And then everything should be fixed because
Right.
there's nothing's better and less stressful on your body than real food.
Right. And then you're getting it, like if you've got kefir, you're getting a ton of enzymes from your kefir too.
I
I mean,
can't speak.
real food's
We
amazing.
did a podcast on kefir, however you want to say it.
Right.
And out of anything we speak about today, I think it needs to be like highlighted that kefir here is the takeaway. If you're not, that should be in huge, gigantic text on your back, and you can barely see the other words. Kefir, you got to drink it, make it properly. I have several videos on how to make dairy kefir, water kefir. You can buy water kefir grains on my site. One thing we never spoke about was like, what about, can you actually just eat the kefir grains? Is that going to be nearly that's probably going to be just as effective as drinking kefir, although a lot more expensive.
It's not equal, but so I talk about that too in my videos. Like you take your extra grains, right? With people that get the grains and are making their own, and just take the extra grains and put them into your, your shake that you're blending up, for your second ferment, because the distribution of the microbes is very different inside the grains. And so, because some of them proliferate much more into the milk. So when you take the grains, the ones that are maybe a lot less in the drink itself, you're going to get a shot extra boost by eating some of the grains. So it's nice. It's nice to just consume the extra.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. They're selling these $30 bottles of probiotics when they should just be selling $30 bottles of kefir grains.
Yeah, and it's much more potent. Well, I tell you what. So I have a client that cannot really tolerate milk yet, but continues to grow the milk kefir grains and just consume some of the grains.
Yeah,
and can tolerate that, and it's a huge boost. You can't exactly replace the drink itself with the grains, but yeah, both together, or one if you can't do the other.
yeah. There's too many this, you have the surface area of all the bacteria and just an incredible amount of B vitamins that are
Yes,
one of the
yes,
most
yeah.
important things for just what people, and especially what people are deficient in and not absorbing properly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really big thing. I think it's even a big thing in, well, I don't want to bring up the topic of things we should not speak about with certain current diseases and such,
Oh yeah, you
but
know what?
there's a, yeah, but there were some really good write-ups. A lot of some scientists and doctors believed it was actually because of vitamin B deficiencies. And there's another disease called beriberi, which is it's because of vitamin B deficiency. So again, right, if you got kefir, and especially if you got double fermented, you know, that's a good amount of B vitamins coming into your body.
So
Healthy, clean.
we've spoken about like the less, like this is a hypothetical less severe candida infection. Maybe you just need to fix your diet, definitely
Hmm,
incorporate a little bit of probiotics, the kefir, that's something anyone should do. You should be good to go. In a more severe circumstance, then you start incorporating the zeolite, the clays, the magnesium, the MSM.
right, right.
But let's say you are that person that's been going to the doctor for 2 years and Candida has turned into SIBO, small intestinal
Mhm.
fungal overgrowth. Let's say the Candida is really severe. You can't sleep. Your body's not digesting food. You're losing weight. Um, that's where you might actually have to take an antimicrobial protocol, have to then supplement actual physical vitamins and minerals to replenish your
Mm,
body and just bomb out that
mm.
Candida so your body can actually digest the food and absorb the nutrients. That's definitely a more severe circumstance that you would definitely want to consult with someone on. I've had a lot of people come to me from naturopaths that aren't really too sure what they're doing. It never made sense to me as, I've seen a couple dozen protocols that these naturopaths are doing, and not one of them has recommended kefir, which to me is mind-boggling.
Right, right. It's pretty
But
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, when you
That's
do
it.
get into that severe SIBO, CFO state, that's where you kind of want to utilize all information you have access to and understand that the priority is get your body to digest the food you're eating. If that means taking antimicrobials and enzymes, and then you start gaining weight again, you feel like the food's digesting.
Mm.
But whatever you do, if it's not working within several days, you got to alter things. You can't stick to one thing and hope it's going to work.
Right. Yeah. You got to get away from it. So yeah, that's for me. I never use those things because I usually am trying to get them right to the long term. But like you said, you'll know after a few days if it doesn't work. And SIBO is really about motility. And I have a lot of clients that they got rid of SIBO using the PB zeolite, which is it's just a bit large. It's larger than the PBX, so it doesn't go into the blood. It's like as small as it can be without going right into the blood, so it gets as deep as possible into the digestive tract. And some people responded really quickly with PB to get rid of SIBO.
Yeah, the body has the tendency to want to absorb nutrients when it's not necessarily a good thing. The body wants to absorb toxins. So when you have the candida or whatever in your digestive system, and the body wants to like digest and absorb what's in the stomach, the reason you consume the clay, the zeolite and stuff is actually to flush it out, because you need to flush it out. You don't want it sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. And drink lots of water without diluting everything in your system. That's a little bit tricky for people too. Sometimes people go overboard with water, but most people don't drink enough when they're detoxing, right? When you need to detox, you need to flush out. And I think one other thing was good, I think is good to mention, people don't realize that kefir is also one of the best electrolytes. Because like people tend to go crazy, because if you go overboard with electrolytes, you're going to tax your kidneys.
Yeah.
So people should really, I mean, basically, if they're eating healthy, if they're following a good diet, then they're good on the electrolytes, right? So just, yeah, man, a balanced diet is just so good. You bring in the good foods, that means you're going to displace the refined sugars, the refined carbs, and all the other toxic processed foods. And those good foods are going to nourish you and help you to get rid of the candida. And then, yeah, I mean, there's so many, it's just endless. Actually, the enzymes you have too, I mean, those are also pretty good for helping someone try to bust through, to try to bust through a biofilm in a lot of those easier cases. Just those
Yeah.
enzymes can
If
help.
it's not a real severe overgrowth,
Right. If it's not
the
severe.
enzymes, especially the proteases will it'll eat through all the proteins and stuff and kind of digest the candida and break it down so
Right.
your body actually absorbs the nutrients instead of it just
Right.
sitting there. And one interesting thing is that candida it has only really came up since our new Wi-Fi high radiation environments. I don't think candida really existed like in this context 30, 40, 50 years ago. But once we have all these cell phones, everyone's on Wi-Fi all day, all of that electromagnetic radiation is passing through our digestive system and inhibiting organ function. The main thing to take away from that is bacteria and fungus are relatively unaffected by radiation compared to living things. Well, they're
Well,
both living, but
yeah.
like actual people and larger beings
Well,
with more.
there's some studies that say that their DNA is altered, possibly more, which is why it's
Really,
hurting us.
the bacteria and fungus.
Yes. So which is what hurts us too. So we're actually getting a double whammy. Yeah, and so there's still a lot of that research going on, but so I've seen stuff that says that, yeah, so not obviously like you're saying, right? We're vulnerable, our organs are vulnerable, but also our biome. So with the biome being altered by the EMFs, again, that makes it easier for the candida overgrowth to take place because all of the, right? Because we should have enormous diversity.
The bacteria you're saying the bacteria are more sensitive to the EMF than the fungus are.
I don't know if it is more or less. I'm not sure about that, but just in general, the microbes, the DNA is being impacted by the EMFs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would disrupt their natural, because they exchange DNA. I mean, so they evolve very quickly and they adapt. And so
the food you're eating, that's why even if you have a really bad candida overgrowth, yeah, it's fueled by sugar and carbs, but it can switch to eating fat and protein too. And if the candida morphology switches to fat and protein, then you're in trouble.
yeah, well, the morphology issues are really pretty scary thing, but I don't want to terrify people.
Yeah. Well, we want to, we want, there are very rare circumstances where if you have a large amount of toxins in the body, then regardless of what you do, the candida will continue to change and adapt. But again, the key and the healthy diet is what mainly alleviates that. But
right.
The EMF Wi-Fi stuff is why I'm in a canopy right now. This is a silver canopy. I wear my shirt and underwear all the time when I go out. I sent Victor a canopy.
Can't see mine here, but I got to do that. I got to get mine on the screen. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's important, and I think out of everything we've spoken about, this is something everyone should be doing as well. You want to reduce the Wi-Fi radiation stress as much as possible. And just by wearing protective clothing and sleeping in a bed canopy, two things which are not really invasive to the average person's lifestyle, you can effectively reduce EMF exposure by like 60, 70%. And then when you do additional things like keep your cell phone on airplane mode, hardwire devices, reduce household EMF, that's where you get upwards of 80, 90%. But I've had clients come to me where their brother installed a computer room next to them and they just started having all these health issues. And regardless of what they did with the diet or anything, exercise, nothing helped it because the radiation was that high and they couldn't tolerate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people are really sensitive. Like here's another thing too. So
the more toxins, the more sensitive.
Yeah. So like these tools help those people so much. I mean, they help all of us because, you're just more sensitive to EMF when you've got more heavy metals. If you get the heavy metals out, your sensitivity will go down a bit. Doesn't mean that you still can just bathe in EMF all the time because it's just such an unnatural state for us. It's just really unnatural. And yeah, for sure. For some people, it's all about the EMF. I mean,
different people tolerate it differently, but especially in the past few years, now that the devices are becoming stronger and more, there's just so many more of them, and everyone has a Netflix device on their TV, and Alexa, a cell phone. And now more and more, it went probably from like 5% of people being EMF sensitive to now like 15, 20, 30% of the population is noticing. And I saw a post yesterday of like a woman's husband bought the new 5-gram cell phone, and she started feeling pains in her copper IUD.
Wow.
Just stuff, little things like
Right.
that. And people can't figure out
Right.
what is it? And then the person that knows what's going on, hey, there's metal in your body. There's
Yeah.
all these frequencies around us. It's like a
Right.
magnet. It's sucking in all that frequencies and
Right.
dispersing it around the area of the metal. And
Yeah, it's crazy.
as you said, the more if your liver is full of iron, a lot of toxins, a lot of heavy metals, it's just absorbing more radiation, which is why, if you just wear a protective shirt, your organs are protected. It's a good way to ensure that digestion isn't being impacted too much, regardless of where you go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a really easy win to reduction, just shield yourself the best you can, reduce what you can, then try to get the toxins out. Yeah, so we're not helpless, right? There's so much we can do. We can also become aware, where we position ourselves. Like I have one of the trimeters that I use to check the house so I can figure out like where's the worst place or the best place to hang out. So there's not everybody needs to. I mean, a lot of things are just visible. You can see where's don't hang out next to your power panel. Don't be leaning against that.
Yeah, no, I
Sleeping
mean,
against it.
if you move away from move away from the circuit breaker box and sleep in a bed canopy, you're basically good.
Yeah.
If you do have control over your house, if you're not in an apartment, if you're not living with family, if you have more control over what you can turn on and off, that's where you can start really
Right.
turning off all devices, making sure you're basically in a really low Wi-Fi environment. But this ties
Right.
back to, like, most people don't have to correct these things to fix the problem. But again, some of these more extreme things we mentioned are necessary for optimal health. And when you do them, even if you don't think you need to, you will feel better.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like I tell all my clients also get the PBX, try it. Like they can, in fact, I don't know if I got to send you a link because there's a special offer where you can try it for less than $15. And a lot of people will feel an impact. Normally it should take a long time, for us to get the toxins out, but we're all toxic, and there's so many things that we can do. And it doesn't have to cost $1 million for us to clean up, or at least to aid our body, and or at least reduce the impact of the EMF somewhat.
Yeah. If you haven't been like grass-fed carnivore for a couple of years, you would definitely benefit from the toxin removers. For me, I was in a very unique, isolated scenario where my Candida overgrowth is being caused by an iron overload, whereas like the average person might have dozens of different toxins and metals overloading their liver. For me, I was basically clean because I'm eating organic grass-fed meat all day. I'm not eating anything else for years and years and years. So my body basically removed all toxins, but it made up for it with an excess amount of iron.
So, that's an interesting point because, that'll happen with copper too. We have to be real. And there's a risk, in fact, like it's really kind of trendy to supplement with zinc.
Very bad.
Yeah.
Anytime someone tells me they're supplementing zinc, I say, don't do it.
Yeah. Like you should eat oysters because they have copper, because the zinc copper balance is really tricky in the body. And if we take just zinc, it can cause copper ions to start freely floating in the body. So yeah.
The issue with
like
the carnivore diet is it's too high in zinc and people become copper deficient.
So they're
standard American diet, people are deficient, and usually both.
Right. Yeah. So look, man, right. Life is complicated. The human body is a complicated thing, but if we just follow a good diet, and these things too, like these are coming from the earth, right? So like when I'm talking about the zeolite and the clay and even the fulvic acid, they're natural things. They're things that the earth is giving us, things that animals seek out. So again, we're not relying on the pharmaceutical companies. We're not even talking about going crazy with plant medicine. Sometimes you do. I actually do like berberine because it helps in a lot of different ways. But again, these things should not be used, long term, forever.
Yeah, there's just a lot of ridiculous stuff, like Pau d'Arco tea.
That's very good stuff, actually. The teas I really like. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to talk about that. teas are so good because there's so many excellent teas.
There's the main Candida ones I think are Pau d'Arco, Uva Ursi, and Olive Leaf. Now, Pau d'Arco is to me the best tasting one. And I'm assuming it's the least stressful on the liver. Uva Ursi doesn't taste that great, but it's not, it's okay. Olive Leaf is very bitter astringent. I'm assuming
It's
it's
a
pretty stressful
potent,
on the liver.
yeah,
Very
it's
potent,
potent,
yeah.
right? So, right. So I was going to say exactly what you're actually alluding to is that you get a lot of these teas are really good because you just, again, you just incorporate them into your life, right? A lot of them are really good for hydration. And instead of just drinking water, and they have additional benefits. So you're not like just trying to kill something. They have many benefits. It's also a reason why I like berberine. Like a lot of people say, like sell berberine as like a candida killer, but I don't view it that way at all. I don't see it that way. So I don't mind berberine. I think berberine can help a lot of people that are, struggling with their blood sugar balance, et cetera. So yeah, so a lot of those things, I'm glad you mentioned the tea because there's so many good teas. They
Yeah, I
help
wonder
with
if you could
digestion.
infuse I wonder if you can infuse water kefir with Pau d'Arco. I wonder if that would kill some of the bacteria in the kefir. That'd be interesting. But
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I think the teas can be used as a more mild antimicrobial.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
use
like
that, right. So you just use them, I like I said, as part of your normal routine because it's additional hydration. So
yeah,
we don't need to mix it, right? So we're
I
just
used to
because you're
use them
enjoying it.
as I used to use them to to take all the antimicrobial pills. So what
Oh,
I
okay,
would
to
do is
swallow it down.
I would take my oregano oil, my capric acid, inosylenic acid, berberine, the dozen things I was taking that were destroying my liver, and I would slug it
Mm.
down with a very concentrated Pau d'Arco tea,
Oh, wow.
so that it would basically
Ooh.
all of the that's if you want to bomb out your stomach, hit me up because I know what to do.
Right,
It is
right,
basically like
right,
all of those capsules and oils and very like astringent,
right,
toxic, like
right,
caustic, very burning
right, right.
oils would basically burst with the Pau d'Arco, and anything there it would go
Right.
through. No,
So
there's this.
you're not encouraging people to do this stuff.
No, no,
So
no,
just to
but
be
yeah,
clear.
no, no. But there's also this
Yeah.
guy. I don't want to say the name of it, the product, but it's used as a pool cleaner, and if
Oh
you
my
take
God.
it with ascorbic acid, it completely flushes out your digestive system. It was a type of sulfur actually, but something less crazy than that would be like a sea salt flush, like a saltwater flush.
Right,
There's a lot of different things that and crazy stuff that people have tried,
right.
but we want you guys to understand that we've researched this stuff. The
Mm.
crazier person in here has tried it, and we're telling you to stick with the diet and the kefir, not to do
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
that's going to potentially damage your body.
Right, right. Right, exactly. I mean, it's exciting to talk about bomb and stuff, but yeah, in the long run, because in the long run, we want to actually adjust to a healthier lifestyle. And so these other tools, yeah, they'll make it happen. Just find those good food sources. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about fulvic acid because I've never really done a
Mm,
video on fulvic acid, and um, well, there's a
cool.
lot of like shilajit nonsense going on.
Yes. So, that's it. That's a very good way to start it off too. I had not talked about fulvic acid a lot because it was very hard to find a product that I could trust. So the quality varies dramatically. So I actually only recommend
Would
one
you go? You
fulvic.
flew to the Himalayas and got the gorilla poop
The-
for us?
No, no, not myself. No, but actually, so I use something called BOO Fulivc Acid. It comes from Canada, and it's a pretty cool story behind it. And it's like triple the amount of fulvic acid of other products. Like it, this is a really tricky thing because fulvic acid products don't have a lot of fulvic acid.
Tell people what fulvic acid is first.
So it's a very small molecule. So you've got humic acid and fulvic acid are these really good, they're organic compounds, right? So they're basically, it's like, somewhere in the earth where a bunch of organic things died, plants and animals, and they've been decomposed. And so the organic matter is decomposing. And if you go a really long time, like you mentioned, shilajit, you're getting to the point where this stuff becomes fossilized. And so there is fulvic acid in Shilajit, and with a lot of good minerals, but it's in this fossilized form at this point. I actually do like Shilajit, but again, quality is a really big issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not drinking black tar, buddy. So
Yeah, right. It's a really, and it's a really,
Shilajit looks like black tar.
yeah, it does. It really does. So before you get to that point, right, you've got humic acid and fulvic acid, which is still like alive.
What is humus? The word for soil, right? Humus.
Yeah. So you're
similar.
getting that right. So actually, like, it'll be like you go to like a peat bog, like where they get the fulvic acid is from a peat bog, right? So it's very similar. It's all this idea. You've got all these different things as organic matter is decomposing in the earth
We tell people to
naturally.
eat dirt from a bog, and now let's keep going.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, but of course, you know, they go through and it goes through some processing, but you're still getting basically this organic matter. And so it's another really good, we could say it's a great electrolyte because there's like over 70 different minerals in it. But the key thing for me, like I actually don't care about those minerals because in our good diet, we got kefir and other stuff.
We got minerals.
Right. But the fulvic acid and the humic acid is really good too, but fulvic acid is even better. It's smaller. It's like a tiny version of humic acid, and it can go everywhere in the body. And so it does several things. It's a great carrier. So it will help deliver minerals throughout the body. And it's great at also oxygenating. It'll bring oxygen to the cells, so it'll give you energy. It has a lot in common with MSM, even though they're totally different molecules. A lot of similar benefits. It's like MSM is feeding you sulfur. Fulvic acid will feed you other things because it'll actually carry minerals, and it will detox. So it will also grab heavy metals. It's not as good as the PBX zeolites, because it's actually doing some chelation.
Yeah, we need to do. We should do a whole
it's
separate
pretty complex
podcast on each of these.
Yeah, it's pretty complex, but it's really good. So like I've got clients that use all of these things together, and the fulvic acid you can use as a foot bath, a face mask, but quality again is really important. So one thing I'd like to contrast, like when we talk about the clay, like good clay is everywhere. You still want to be careful, you want to be careful, but you can basically get good clay anywhere. You really don't have to worry so much about brands. But when it comes to the fulvic acid and the zeolite, the PBX and PB, I will only work with the one brand because there's just so much trash.
I'm laughing because this girl on Instagram sent me a DM of her eating clay from her backyard once.
Oh my God. I don't mind that. I'm still a little worried because our environments are so toxic and unnatural, right? I don't know how pristine her backyard is.
Yeah.
Right. An elephant in Africa eating clay is different from us going into our backyard. So yeah, so we do want to be a little careful. So I do like to use brands that I feel comfortable with. But there's just with clay, there's a lot of good stuff. So
I guess we didn't talk about like people start freaking out when they see Candida in their bowel movement, which kind of looks like string cheese.
Oh, right. But that's a good thing. I always tell when people freak out, hey, congratulations, it's coming out. Well, assuming that you started doing things to help it come out.
Yeah.
But
if you do take the probiotics and the water kefir, the lactobacillus and the beneficial bacteria is just going to eat it. So you should have a regular bowel movement eventually.
Well, yeah, but you can still because when you start to really kill off Candida, it can just start falling out.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be a temporary thing. It shouldn't be.
Right. It's not forever. So that's why I say it's a good sign you're winning the battle.
Mm-hmm.
You're winning the battle. It's a good sign. It starts coming out. So you don't have to panic. There's another interesting thing, when, especially with milk kefir, when people do milk kefir or any dairy, right? Dairy increases your body's ability to produce mucus. And now mucus is another fantastic tool that the body uses. If the body can produce enough mucus, it's going to use mucus to flush out toxins, right? So you'll get more mucus flow if you can produce it. So because some people panic, oh my God, I'm getting a lot of mucus out. And I'll say, congratulations. Sometimes it's an indicator that, something wrong is going on because you ate something bad. But again, if you're able to produce the mucus and you were toxic, then that's good. You're starting to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yeah. So I don't worry when I see stuff coming out. Yeah.
I
So,
think we've touched on basically everything we need to on Candida. I mean, the basic protocol is start cleaning up your diet, definitely get some Wi-Fi protection clothing. And the more difficult part, I guess, is getting a good probiotic, because you usually have to make it yourself. We are selling the water kefir already made on Frankie's Free Range Foods now, if you guys do want to try that out. If you have a local farm nearby that makes it, that's great too. But it can be a little difficult for most people to get their hands on a good probiotic that actually has the correct strains without having to make it themselves.
Yeah. Kefir. Well, kefir is the easy win, right? It's more potent than anything you can buy in a bottle of pills, So, I mean, that's really, and other fermented foods, and even, complementing that with, if you can get your hands on a good yogurt, but yeah, if you can make kefir a top priority, because it's just so powerful. Yeah, good stuff. So I think we don't have to talk about stress, but of course it goes without saying people need to reduce their stress, but healthy eating should help you to reduce your stress too. So
Reducing the Wi-Fi EMF, especially to the brain, is also
yeah,
a big
right.
one.
All those things, right? I mean, it's all connected, right? We got to take a holistic perspective. It's all connected. So yeah, actually we've been going on. This has been I can't believe it always feels like there's
over an
more to
hour,
talk about. We're at 90 minutes, I think.
Oh, are we?
We're coming up on we're coming up on 90
Okay,
minutes.
I guess we better wrap this one up then. And if
Wow.
we missed anything, we'll have to talk about it in the next podcast.
Gotcha.
So we definitely have to do a separate one on the fulvic acid and stuff we started going into, and maybe even another. Maybe we can tie that in with the detox podcast.
Oh yeah, that would be a good way to do it. Yeah, we'll do a general detox one.
Yeah,
And we'll cover those elements.
Yeah, I think we've touched on everything you need to know about Candida, and then the specifics, like specific supplement protocols, specific antimicrobial protocols. That's where you can reach out to myself or Victor if you want to. Victor, if you want to actually reasonable approach me, if you want to start blasting stuff and doing crazy stuff. No, but Victor, did you have anything else to mention?
No, that's about it. I would say, when you look at some of these things, they might look expensive, but there are ways to get some deals. I'll make sure you've got the links for them if anybody wants to try the PBX.
Yeah, I'll just link I'll link your stuff in the description. They can go, and I think you have a link there, right?
Yeah. So
you have everything on there.
Yep. Yeah, I got lots of stuff. So yeah, I think we covered it all. That was we did nice.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for the podcast this Sunday. As I just mentioned, we're going to have Victor's information as well as mine linked in the comments below. You can go to his or my website to see our various businesses or to reach out to us. Outside of that, if you guys could please drop a like on the video, especially leave a comment down below if you have any questions or if we missed anything, as well as subscribing and checking that notification bell. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you for the next podcast.
Thank you.